Hello everyone, this is Suresh Kunduru. Hope all of you can hear me. So this is a webinar on the topic organizational dysfunctions or anti-patterns, especially in the banking and financial sector organizations which are going through agile transformation. Just trying to get that. Okay. So this is probably going to be a 30 to 40 minutes talk, and then we will also take questions. So you can type your questions in the chat box. Hope you can see the chat box and type the questions. So Satya is moderating the webinar for us here. Thanks, Satya. So a little bit on my experience and what I'm doing today. So nearly 20 years of IT work experience in organizations such as Infosys, Capgemini, and now with Ajivata Consulting as an enterprise coach. So I have been working in various locations and also worked in project management, delivery management, agile transformation, training, coaching, and all kinds of streams. So my experience is predominantly with banking and financial sectors, especially on the agile transformation side. So I thought that would be a good topic for us to discuss today. So what is agile transformation? So as you all might be experiencing, agile transformation is more about transforming the current way of working to an agile way of working, a new way of working for the overall organization, the teams, the customers, the partners, suppliers, and so on. And then what can make it more complex, especially at a banking and financial services industry, including the banks, insurance companies, financial institutions, ratings organizations, and so on. So my experience is more associated with such companies. So I thought this could be a good learning experience and thought sharing experience with all of you. Yep. Okay. So we have a specific format for this discussion. Unfortunately, this is a webinar, so we will not be able to do any activities. So this is more of a discussion-oriented talk. So the format is, we will look through certain patterns, few patterns, or anti-patterns or dysfunctions that I call them. We will also see why such patterns exist in the company and what are some of the ways to break away from such patterns, right? So I had this similar topic in the Global Scrum Gathering last year, as well as a couple of Agile tours as well. So there was decent amount of discussion. So I thought, this could also be useful for all of us here. Yep. Okay. So let's see. I'm covering 5 patterns here, and if time permits, probably we'll go into a couple of other patterns as well, and then we'll take the questions. Right now, I'm not able to see the questions because of the slideshow, but hopefully we'll be able to get there once this is done. Yeah. So pattern number 1, here we go. Legacy organizational hierarchies have too many role specializations. So one of the or some of these enterprises that I have worked with on agile transformation, I have come across quite a few roles. And of course, project manager, delivery manager are some of the common roles that we see everywhere. But apart from that, we see a lot of other managerial roles, environment manager, release manager, and a lot of other managerial roles, and not just managerial, but a lot of other, probably some regulatory compliance related roles, risk manager, compliance manager. So all these roles existed in some of those organizations where I worked with, right? And agile transformation is about dealing with people and their transformation. The transformation essentially means transforming people and their way of working. So there is a lot of resistance coming with many role specializations. So the question to ask ourselves is, do we really need those roles, or is there some consolidation that can happen that can help the agile transformation? So let us see why such roles exist. If you take the financial companies or the medical organizations, there is so much of regulatory compliance that is required by the organization. Right? Probably some of those compliance requirements or the regulatory bodies would have forced it to have so many roles. I'm not saying they are not required. Maybe they are required. Some of them may not be required. Probably have to look at the specific context and comment more about it. But since we are dealing with people and people are resistant to change, so this is one of the big anti-patterns that I have come across. And many of these organizations have been running for long times, maybe 70 years, 80 years, 100 years, and some of them are even for 150 years and so on. So they come with a lot of redundant applications, a lot of complex business functionalities, a lot of applications that are planned to be decommissioned but never done. A lot of data available, redundancy of data available. So a lot of application owners are maintaining these applications, and they kind of stick to their own applications and not resistant to change. I'm working here for the last 30 years, and this is my way of working. That kind of mindset is there. So it's becoming an impediment. The thinking. I'm not talking about people becoming an impediment, but the thinking becoming an impediment to the agile transformation. So let's see how we can break away from such a pattern. Right? Probably there could be more suggestions. I'm even open for feedback and suggestions from the participants here. But these are probably some of those measures which could help. So when I was working with one of the organizations a couple of years ago, there is a massive exercise that we did, in order to transform to an agile way of working. What are the new set of roles that are required? So let us list down such roles that will be important for this transformation and a new way of working, right? Something like a Vision 2020 and all that stuff. So list down all the roles that are required. I'm not just talking about the Scrum roles, not just the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the development team, but there are probably more and more roles that are required at the organization level. So you probably need to take a holistic picture, list down the roles. And again, roles do not mean people. So roles are roles and attached to specific set of responsibilities. So we got to see how we can map those existing roles to the new set of roles that are required. Right? In this process, there could be some redundancy. The redundancy has to be removed, and there could be some reorganization which has to be done by this enterprise. So such reorganization and redundancy has to be dealt with, and probably for example, I'll take a role, right? So there is a project manager. Of course, we cannot do away with project manager in a new way of working, especially when these are large numbers of employees to exist, large number of projects are being executed. First of all, the project mindset has to be moved to more of a product mindset. So that is something that helped us in the organization that I was working with. And some of the people who come with long years of product expertise, obviously, are not redundant in the company. Probably have to be retrained, unlearn some of the old ways of working and relearn, retrained to a new way of working. And obviously, a lot of training and coaching workshops have to be done at all the senior leadership levels as well as the middle management layers, along with the trainings and the workshops and the orientation sessions that the teams go through. So it's very important to do an executive coaching at the senior leadership level as well as a middle layer. Yeah. So this is one of the patterns that I thought about. So let's move on to the second pattern. The command and control style of working. So this is again has been existing for a quite long time. And the reason for me to put this here is I have heard straight from the teams that, probably they're still not able to do some of their Scrum ceremonies because of whatever, somebody does not like them. They're not let to do their own, sizing of the user stories, and still estimates are forced, timelines are forced on the teams. So the team's input is not really valued, by this particular layer of people. So that is something that has to be moved away from. Yep, I understand. There is still a high risk and high regulatory environment we are talking about in a BFSI kind of organizations. But still, we got to see how that can be elevated. The risk and regulatory environment still exists, but how we can move away from this way of working. And there is a lot of superhero culture, from in these organizations, that one particular person is a single point of contact, and he or she is a performer of the quarter, and all that individual appraisals do exist today. We got to move away from some of these things in order to really work to build the trust amongst each other, to increase the collaboration and communication across teams, right? So the example that I was talking about is the team. I was doing an assessment for the team, and do you do your retrospectives? So the team says no. Okay, why? Do you think that you are you have already performed at the best possible levels? The team says no. Okay, but then what was the reason? My manager says we don't do retrospectives for whatever reasons. So the teams have to let us decide. Let them decide on which ceremonies the team can do and all the stuff. So obviously, sprint retrospective is one of the ceremonies, most effective ceremonies, where the teams can embark on a continuous improvement journey. Let us empower them to take decisions. Let us empower them to do sizing of the user stories and give them realistic timelines. So that empowerment is very much key, and also the self-organization amongst the teams. And in this way, in this route, obviously the managers at all levels have to be trained and coached to transition and to think at a new way of working. Also, the appraisals, one of the longest, the most debated topic in an agile organization is whether we continue with the individual appraisals or team appraisals, or what do we do about it. So we have seen quite a few large organizations have come up at doing away with the individual or the bell curves, right? And more of a open appraisals or a team appraisals are being done these days. And also 360-degree appraisals is being done in many organizations. So which gives transparency and also helps us to build trust among the people. So let's move on to a third pattern. Huge upfront planning and big bang delivery model still exists. So exactly, very, very contradicting on what Agile and Scrum say today. Incremental delivery, iterative delivery, but we still have lots and lots of upfront planning, and a big bang delivery model is practiced even today in some of these large financial organizations. So some of the reasons why it is still existing, probably it worked in the past, so why not continue, kind of a syndrome. The mindset is still old, thinking in an old way of working, and long release cycles associated with target dates set by regulatory bodies. So some of these, the SOC 4 compliance and the other compliance, probably we have certain dates to comply by those regulatory bodies. So probably our release cycles are still associated with those target dates. So that could be one of the reasons, but that does not really stop us from doing sprint-based delivery and short releases. We can still comply to the dates set by those regulatory bodies and still do continuous delivery and short development cycles. And I have heard about organizations where they are planning for a big bang agile transformation. Okay, my transformation should be complete in the next 6 months, right? And then by end of third month it should be 50%, end of fourth month it should be 60%. So I don't think that really works practically. There are organizations struggling today, even not able to be completely agile even after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So let's not plan for something really, really big. Let's take baby steps. Let's do in small increments. Yep. And also probably the existing framework is not really working for us. think of something new. It could be Scrum, it could be something else. It could be a combination in some cases. I've seen hybrid frameworks helping some of these organizations, which is a combination of Scrum and a little bit of scaling as well. Probably look at something customizing an existing scaling framework to suit your organization's context. Right. Obviously, lateral talent will help bring a fresh perspective into the organization. So we got to work with some of these, agile coaches and transformation agents and change agents. And also start with baby steps. Use proof of concepts for this agile transformation initiatives. Don't wait for the big ones. Okay, so let's move on to pattern 4. Business teams are not aligned with IT teams. Okay, now this is a big problem. I've seen in many cases, banks especially, the IT team is completely sold with the agile idea, and they are onboarded with the agile plan, the transformation plan for the next 18 months or 2 years or so. They have budgets allocated, the teams are trained, they have good roadmaps already drawn up to the big date. Are the business teams aware of such an initiative? Maybe not. Or even they are aware, they have allocated, they have approved the budget, but they are not still onboarded. So this is a big gap between the IT teams and the business teams. They normally think, okay, IT works in agile way, but business teams works normally. That doesn't work. Agile, as you know, the developers and business teams collaborate on a continuous basis, one of the agile principles. So we got to have the business teams on board right from day one. Maybe again, baby steps, small extents, small success stories, small failure stories will help. It need not be a big bang approach, but it should be in small pockets. And then spread those success stories around the organization, and that will probably give motivation for the teams. And in many cases, I have heard that the business teams do not have time for the agile transformation. So let the IT work in agile. They will still work in sprints, but the business teams work, or they come every 3 months to review the progress, which is again probably a cause for the failure. There are a lot of awareness and communication gaps between the teams, between IT and business teams as well. So proper coordination has to be done between IT and the business teams. The business teams have to be onboarded, collaborate with the teams to create a transformation plan, to create a suitable budget, to allocate time for both the parties to participate in the transformation, the sprint reviews, the product plans, the roadmap, and whatever. Obviously, training and coaching of the business teams also plays a key role. So you probably have to hire the right coach who has the experience of working with business teams and not just the IT teams. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to pattern number 5. Mostly we have seen component teams, we have the UI team, the database team, the middle service layer team, and so on. We don't have a feature team yet. Again, some of the reasons could be you have very complex business systems, you have role specializations, you have technical teams trained for a long time and have been working very well for quite a long time. That's what at least the perception is. And a lot of legacy applications, partial digitalization in terms of your backend is still a legacy application working on the mainframe, but your front end is more on the Java side, right? So the release cycles are probably still different. The front end is still working on sprints while the backend is still working in their long release cycles. So some reasons like that, and I have seen people have been breaking away from this pattern. So how to break away from these patterns? So set up cross-functional feature teams. Cross-functional. I'm sure you would have heard about that. And special focus is on the feature teams rather than component teams. So a team which is able to deliver a feature end to end, not just the UI or the backend or the middle layer, but a team which is more cross-functional and be able to deliver features, business features. Minimize the component teams as much as possible, and you've got to use continuous integration as well as automation testing. Set up a definition of done for the teams and use scaling frameworks as one of the options. So forming a feature team doesn't happen just like that. It's not easy. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of training, and a lot of communication across the teams and team members to form feature teams. So a T-shaped skill teams, it's one way to go in the latest Agile transformation companies that I have seen. We're even talking about pie-shaped skills. So these are some of the techniques on how you can form cross-functional feature teams. Let me see if we have any questions so far. Okay, so there are some questions. How to get rid of governance or audit or stage gates in BFSI organization? So the question is how to get rid of governance or audits or stage gates in BFSI organizations. So as long as these audits or stage gates are to do with your financial compliance, I guess, I'm not sure if there's a way out of those, but then the only thing we could better do is be prepared for such things. If it is a CMMI compliance or a process compliance, or which says I needed certain level of documentation, certain level of planning to be done upfront, and then make sure the planning is followed, then it is the organization's decision on whether to really continue with such kind of compliance, right? But however, it is a financial compliance, and it is a huge risk is involved, right? I think such audits are still bound to happen. So try to make it nimble, try to make it there are frameworks which will actually help you employ lightweight governance mechanisms, lightweight metrics, lightweight audits, right? Nimble processes. You probably research on some of those and deploy those frameworks and governance processes, which will make more nimble. Try to cut short some of that, and even some of these audits probably have to go through some root cause analysis and figure out what is really required. But I'll tell you an example. In one of the customers, again a financial customer that I was working with, there were some 20 reports that are being created every week by the Scrum Master, unfortunately. So when I asked the Scrum Master, he said that my customer needs 20 reports by Friday, so I have to create them. So when I go to the customer, who is a typical product owner, he says, yeah, I'm receiving those, but I need only 10 of them. So the other 10 are not really required, and I'm not sure where they're going and who is using them. And when I go to the next level customer manager says, I actually need only 6 of them. I don't need all the 10. So if you really see, just a little bit dig deep into it and figure out, probably out of the 20, maybe you need only 3 or 4 reports. The others are all intermediate reports trying to fuel your actual 3 or 4 reports. So try to see if you can minimize or eliminate some of those reports. And also automation of these reports is probably one of the other things that you can look at. Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. Probably we'll spend another 5-10 minutes and we'll then move on to any other questions. So these are the 5 patterns that I would like to discuss, and then I thought I'll quickly touch base upon a couple of others as well. Management needs quick results. This is not true just with the BFSI organizations, but any organization, especially services organizations. We needed a lot of quick results. We talked about this. Okay, our agile transformation will be for 6 months, 50% complete by 3 months, that kind of a planning. So this is a very, very bad anti-pattern, I would say. So we got to educate the management that an agile transformation of this sized companies will not be done in 6 months or 1 year or even 2 years for that matter. There are many banks today undergoing this transformation for last 3, 4, 5 years, and they are still not done. And some organizations I have seen, they still call it as a pilot transformation today, even after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Even after 100 teams have transformed, they still call themselves as a pilot transformation. So they're still trying out new things. They have realized that it's never complete. So agile is not a destination. Being agile is something like a journey. So let's not aim for quick results. Obviously, we have to measure the benefits. There is no doubt about that. But we cannot aim for 100% agility or 100% results every time. So the other thing is, other pattern or the anti-pattern is there is no automation at all or very little test automation. And there are multiple handoffs in the testing cycles. The developer, then unit testing, then integration testing, then system testing, then regression testing, then all kinds of testing. And there is a testing sprint towards the end, just before the release. So these kind of handoffs probably have to be avoided. And also try as much as possible to do automation. Yes, it needs a lot of investment, a lot of effort upfront, but then it also gives beautiful results. And try to do all your whatever types of testing that is required within the sprint. Don't have any integration testing sprints or integration sprints towards the end after 6 months. That again is a lot of waste of effort and money. Okay, now project team members are allocated to multiple projects simultaneously. This is again another pattern or anti-pattern that I have come across in teams, that your people are allocated to multiple projects at the same time. So this particular person, a developer, works in 3 projects, 30%, 30%, 40%. I don't know how he or she is able to manage the work, but this does not give very good results. So probably some kind of better management, better planning has to happen at the middle management layers. But then this is going to kill the productivity of the developer, because there is a lot of context switching that is happening within the same sprint. And there is a lot of focus shifting that has to happen, and multiple people are managing him. And there are quite a few scrum calls that he has to join. So the productivity is not helping him anywhere. So that's in brief about the patterns. There are about 10 other patterns which I have come across, but I thought it's not. Let's not go into too much deep into it. Okay, so any questions that we have? Okay, so I see only one question which we already discussed a little bit briefly. So any other questions you have, anytime you can reach out to me. So I'm there on LinkedIn, and my email address is also there on the screen. suresh.kunduru@ajiveta.com. You can drop a note. You can even connect to me on that phone number or LinkedIn or anywhere, and then we can always have a discussion if needed. Okay. So I think that's it. I have planned for around 35, 40 minutes, but I think we are well within the time. And since we don't have questions, we can close this. Thanks everyone for joining this webinar. Have a great day.